Morning. In addition to being Dean of Distance Learning and Continuing Education and Director of the Tech Center at Erikson, a hat that I wear particularly proudly is that I'm a Senior Fellow of the Fred Rogers Center for Early Learning and Children's Media in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. And that's an important context for what I came to talk about today. I'm going to talk about early childhood teacher preparation and professional practice development in the digital age and some of the challenges that we're facing as a result. Early childhood educators are working at the intersection of child development, early learning, and digital media. But sometimes that intersection doesn't have stop signs and stoplights, and we're having some collisions in that intersection. Children who are born digital are being raised and educated by teachers and parents who were born analog, let's say since 1980, or BPC, before the PC. And many of us were born in that phase. We really need development for teachers and for those who prepare them. So I'm not just talking about the teachers, but I'm talking about all of us who've been speaking this morning. Teacher educators, professional development providers, trainers, program administrators, curriculum coordinators, anyone who has anything to do with preparing teachers needs to up their game on the same issue around how we use digital media today. We need it across the learning continuum, from pre-service to in-service to continuing education to lifelong and life-wide learning. So we're casting a broad net here. Educators need 21st century learning experiences, 21st century professional development, so that they can be 21st century teachers. You don't start with how you are a 21st century teacher. You start with being a 21st century learner and then decide what that means for your teaching. There's a couple of trends and big ideas in learning that I think impact our thinking about early childhood teacher preparation. Mobile learning, anytime, anywhere, with anyone, on any device. It's a really big idea. Anytime, anywhere, with anyone, on any device. But if this is the device, I have to think much differently about that little bit of screen real estate and how I use it as a tool for teaching and learning, right? So that's important. Just-in-time learning is an idea that we're excited about. Online, lots of us have been talking about that. Blended learning, we've been talking about. We talked about MOOCs. I think we also need in our field to think about LOOCs, little open online courses, because it is about relationships ultimately that matters. We're thinking about the connected educator, peer-to-peer and connected learning opportunities. And a conversation I'm particularly excited about is informal learning and informal educators who are coming into this conversation around how we use digital media with young children, and really a rich conversation with early childhood educators. So here's my 5 thoughts and 3 recommendations for you to consider today. 1, early childhood education and technology have always had a rather awkward relationship. Educators have a strong preference for face-to-face professional development. Given the choice, they would come together and they want to learn in community. They used to be what I called low-tech, high-touch. That's changing a little bit, but still, we heard a lot of that about resistance to technology and the I don't do technology, I do infant care. That's important. They're skeptical of technology as a tool for learning about hugging and holding babies, but also about teaching young children. Number 2, everything old is new again. The current debate about technology in early childhood has a very familiar ring to it. Haven't we had these arguments before? Concerns are being raised today about, is it either tech, is it either or, is it all tech, no tech, about passive use of technology, about displacement of the things we think are critical for child development in early childhood, about negative impact on social emotional development, how tech might interrupt the adult-child relationships, really what we were just talking about, less outdoor play, more childhood obesity. All of these things have come up before. I started my thinking about this, I think, around when Doug did, when Apple IIe computers first went into preschool classrooms, and I think we heard these same things then. What's new? Mobile digital devices, broadband access, interactive media, multi-touch in a multi-screen world. We have new devices that require us to think differently, but we've been having the technology conversation for a long time. What's old? That screen time refers to passive television viewing. What's new is that that's irrelevant in an age of multiple screens and multi-touch screens and interactive media. We've got to change that definition. And what's old and new, that whatever the technology flavor of the day is that we're excited about, there's never been enough professional development. We spend what we can afford on the technology and leave little or nothing left to help the teachers understand how to use it wisely. And then we're shocked that it's not working well. Number 3, the resources educators need to get started are already at their fingertips. They're already using technology in the classroom. They have been forever. We always have used technology. This is not a brand new thing. We've plugged things in and used them in the analog days too. They already know how to make decisions about how long is long enough. and setting limits, right? They don't need me to tell them how many minutes it is. They know when it's enough, and they can make those decisions. They need to connect their personal use of technology tools like this one with professional applications. That's why you can't be low-tech, high-touch anymore. If you have one of these, you are not low-tech. And if you can't live without it, and you wouldn't let me take it away from you today for the rest of the day, then in fact you're already using a technology tool to manage your own lives. Now it's a different conversation to get you to think about how you use technology in your teaching. Social media and text messages are the doorway to becoming a connected educator. We're already playing out in those spaces. Let's take that energy and use it wisely. We have the developmentally appropriate framework. This underlies everything. We have the NAUIC and Fred Rogers Center joint position statement. I was part of the group that did that updating of that statement. It becomes an important part of this conversation. And we have some new understandings about what we know about research. Lisa Guernsey and New America hosted a meeting in the fall where we gathered top children's media researchers and asked them, well, what do we know and what do we still need to know? Well, what we know is relationships matter. We know that joint engagement matters, that content and context matter, that the individual child and individualizing matters, that creating media matters, that a healthy media diet and the family media ecology matter. Well, we kind of knew some of those things already. But what we learned at the end of the day, or what we pondered about in the end of the day, was that we know a lot about television and children's viewing. 40 years of research on that. We know very little about these devices and the impact on children. We've got research still to do. Number 4, technology in early childhood education is like the layers of an onion. First layer, technology tools for teacher education and teacher educators. Blended online learning, solutions, flipped classrooms, all of the things we've been talking about. Using technology to teach the teachers. Layer 2, technology tools for teaching and teachers. So actually tools that teachers use in the classroom, not with children, but for record keeping, curriculum planning, documentation, assessment, the tasks of being a teacher. We have tools to do that with. Layer 3, technology tools for teaching young children. And then for me, the sweet spot is at layer 4, technology as tools for learning. I want these to be tools for learning, not tools for teaching, and I don't think that's a subtle difference at all. It's number 5, it's a top-down and a bottom-up challenge at the same time. We need digital leadership from teacher educators, from professional development providers, administrators, researchers, all of you. We need a vision for how this moves forward. But we also need teacher researchers and leadership from teachers in classrooms, showing us how to do it well within classrooms. We need that desperately. The most important leadership, however, comes from young children who use these tools intuitively and confidently. If you're having problems with your iPad, find a 4-year-old. It'll be solved, right? How well we use these powerful new tools for inquiry, problem-solving, communication, and collaboration rests in very little hands. Recommendation number 1, recognize digital media literacy for early childhood educators as an essential literacy for 21st century teaching and learning. Digital media literacy is a workforce issue. Digital media literacy includes disposition, knowledge, experience, and competencies that lead to fluency. 21st century literacies include technology literacy, information literacy, web literacy, digital literacy, media literacy. I'm drowning in literacies, right? But they're essential to how teachers think about their teaching and how we prepare children for a world they're already in. Educators who are digitally literate have the knowledge and experience to think critically about selection, use, integration, and evaluation of technology and media for themselves and for the children in their care. They know about appropriate and intentional use. Children who have digital media literacy have critical viewing, listening, information selection, and communication skills with technology and media. They're critical consumers of media. We need to think about how we get teachers to be media makers, managers, mediators, and mentors, the 4 M's. There's some urgency here. Children and parents assume that teachers know the answers to these questions. Children and parents assume that librarians know the answers to these questions. They are coming and saying, what app do I need? What tool do I use? Should I buy this? Should I not? And we don't actually know the answers. So there is some urgency. The other urgency is issues around digital divide and access and equity issues, which we all have to address. Recommendation number 2, integrate digital media literacy across the continuum of early childhood teacher preparation and professional development. Infused, not a course, not a workshop, but as part of how we do all that we do. We need this to happen in formal and informal settings. We need to connect child development, early learning, and developmentally appropriate practice with digital media. We need to put the T in STEM. We need to mind the gap between what we know to be good practice and what teachers are ready to do with technology. That's the gap we all have to figure out how to fill, and we have identified that gap. We have Lisa Guernsey's 3 C's of digital media to guide us: content, context, and the individual child. Again, connect personal and professional use, promote connected learning, so powerful. Gather, show me examples, and we heard about that. We need to do more of that. We need evidence of how technology is working in classrooms so teachers can see what it looks like. During the position statement process, the number one thing we heard was, can you show me what it looks like? I hear what you're describing, but I need to see what it looks like. We need to develop resources, tools, and criteria for content curation, and that's critical. Think of teachers as curators, librarians as curators is the big idea. We need to work toward that common definition of screen time. We need to fund research on effective practices. We need to develop tools for family engagement. We need to identify and support digital leaders and digital leadership wherever it happens. Finally, recommendation number 3, we need to use technology to help educators learn how to use technology. Use technology to figure out how to use technology. It's as simple as that, and it's as complex as that. Prioritize technology, media, professional development, and train the trainer approaches. We've heard some great examples already today. Develop online, blended, hands-on, synchronous aspects for engagement and learning. Invest in time and technology for playful exploration and hands-on learning and professional development. It's not enough to have a one-to-one iPad program and not give the teachers time to play, to really understand how this is going to work. We're going down the wrong path. Encourage tech playgroups for teachers and peer-to-peer connected learning. Get teachers using digital tools to solve digital age problems. Encourage teachers to be media makers so they can help children move from consumers to creators, a true 21st century literacy. It isn't enough to consume media, we have to learn how to create it. And a 3-year-old can create media on an iPad if he's got a teacher that can help with that. Start a maker movement for teachers. We're all excited about maker movements and younger kids. Let's get teachers in maker spaces. Connect formal and informal educators again around best practices with digital media for children and parents. Let me leave you with a quote from Fred Rogers. We have to help give children tools, building blocks for active play. And the computer is one of those building blocks. No computer will ever take the place of wooden toys or building blocks, but that doesn't mean they have to be mutually exclusive. Now, doesn't that sound like Fred? Right? It's not either or, but the tools are already here. They're in children's hands, they're in parents' hands, they're in teachers' hands. It's up to us to make sure that that's good news. Thanks.